The Pentagon just revealed something that has defense analysts around the world in complete shock. While everyone was focused on China's new stealth fighters and Russia's bold claims, America was quietly flying an aircraft so advanced it makes everything else look like ancient history. Secret test flights at speeds that seemed physically impossible. A fighter jet that's been shattering records in the shadows for years. And the most stunning part? The Air Force kept it completely hidden until the moment they were ready to dominate. The F-41 didn't just appear out of nowhere. It's been rewriting the rules of aerial combat longer than anyone outside classified circles knew. What you're about to discover will completely change how you think about American air superiority. But before we reveal just how fast this beast actually flies, you need to understand why this program was buried so deep that even senior military officials were kept in the dark. The answer connects directly to a threat emerging from the Pacific, one that forced America to completely reimagine what a fighter jet needs to be. If you believe America should always lead in military technology, type proud in the comments below. The hidden development. Let me take you back to 2018 when something extraordinary began happening in the classified world of American defense. While the public was watching the F-35 program mature and the F-22 fleet continue operations, a small team of engineers and test pilots was working on something that would change everything. The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, had quietly launched what they called the Air Dominance Initiative. This wasn't just another research project. This was a fully funded program to build and fly experimental aircraft that would validate technologies our enemies couldn't even imagine. Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works, the legendary division that created the SR-71 Blackbird and F-22 Raptor, was tasked with pushing the absolute limits of what's possible. They weren't improving existing designs. They were starting from scratch with one simple question. What would it take to build a fighter that dominates every aspect of aerial combat simultaneously? Here's what nobody knew until recently. By late 2019, they had an answer. And it was flying. The XP-41 demonstrator took to the skies from a remote test facility in the Nevada desert. Not a mock-up, not a subscale model, a full-size experimental aircraft with a real pilot pushing it to speeds that previous fighters could only dream about. Over the next 4 years, that aircraft and a second demonstrator flew hundreds of test missions, accumulating data that would eventually lead to the production F-41. These weren't gentle test flights. Pilots were pushing these machines to their absolute limits. Maximum speed runs at extreme altitudes, low-level penetration flights testing radar signatures, high-G maneuvers that would tear apart conventional airframes. And through it all, the aircraft performed beyond every expectation. In September 2023, DARPA made a cryptic announcement. Their demonstrator programs had achieved unprecedented performance milestones. They didn't specify which milestones, they didn't release any footage or data. They simply confirmed that American aerospace engineering had broken through barriers that were thought to be impossible. The speed revolution. The F-22 Raptor can reach speeds around Mach 2.25. That's roughly 1,500 miles per hour. The F-35 tops out at about Mach 1.6. Both represent the absolute peak of fifth-generation technology. The F-41 doesn't just exceed these speeds, it obliterates them. Official specifications list the F-41's maximum speed as Mach 2.8. That's over 100 miles per hour, making it the fastest operational fighter jet America has produced since the legendary F-15 Eagle. But industry insiders whisper about something even more impressive. During classified test flights, the F-41 reportedly touched Mach 3.0, a speed that only a handful of aircraft in history have ever achieved. Think about what that means. At Mach 2.8, the F-41 covers almost 35 miles every minute. It can cross the entire state of Texas in less than 25 minutes. From takeoff to striking targets 1,000 miles away and returning to base, all in under 2 hours. But here's where the F-41's achievement becomes truly revolutionary. Previous aircraft that reached these speeds were either unarmed reconnaissance planes like the SR-71 or experimental aircraft with no combat capability. The F-41 achieves Mach 2.8 while carrying a full weapons load, maintaining stealth characteristics, and operating as a fully capable combat aircraft. Before we dive deeper, please take a second to like this video and subscribe. Over 98% of viewers watch without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it means a lot to us. Every fighter jet faces the same fundamental problem at extreme speeds. The faster you go, the hotter your aircraft gets. At Mach 2.8, friction with the atmosphere heats the airframe to temperatures that would melt conventional materials. Traditional radar-absorbing coatings burn off. Composite materials degrade. Even the fuel inside the aircraft can become dangerously hot. Lockheed's engineers solved this problem through revolutionary thermal management systems. The F-41's skin incorporates advanced ceramic composites that maintain structural integrity and stealth properties even at extreme temperatures. Fuel circulates through channels in the airframe, absorbing heat before entering the engines. The cockpit uses active cooling systems that keep the pilot comfortable even when the aircraft's exterior reaches temperatures hot enough to glow. This combination of speed and stealth seemed impossible just a decade ago. The F-41 proves you can have both. Stealth at supersonic speeds. Speed alone doesn't win modern air battles. If enemy radar can track your aircraft, they can launch missiles or vector fighters to intercept you. The F-41 was designed from the beginning to be virtually invisible while traveling at speeds that previous stealth aircraft could never approach. The Air Force uses a classification system for stealth capabilities. Fifth-generation fighters like the F-22 and F-35 have what they call very low observable signatures. The F-41 enters a new category entirely, what Air Force officials describe as near-zero observable. What does that actually mean? The F-41's radar cross-section is estimated to be smaller than a small bird. At certain angles and frequencies, it's virtually undetectable by even the most advanced air defense systems currently deployed. This level of stealth required completely rethinking aircraft design. The F-41's shape was optimized using artificial intelligence and supercomputer modeling that ran millions of simulations. Every surface, every angle, every edge was calculated to deflect radar waves away from enemy receivers. But radar, invisibility is only part of the stealth equation. Modern air defense systems also use infrared sensors to detect the heat generated by aircraft engines and airframes. At Mach 2.8, the F-41 generates enormous amounts of heat that could make it visible to infrared tracking systems hundreds of miles away. The solution involves advanced engine design that mixes bypass air with exhaust gases, dramatically reducing the infrared signature of the engine plume. The airframe's ceramic coating radiates heat in wavelengths that are difficult for standard infrared sensors to detect. Even the canopy uses special materials that prevent the pilot's body heat from creating a detectable signature. The result is an aircraft that can penetrate the most sophisticated air defense networks at supersonic speeds without being detected. By the time hostile radar gets even a fleeting contact, the F-41 has already launched its weapons and departed the area at speeds that make interception nearly impossible. Range that changes everything. Speed and stealth create tactical advantages, but strategic impact requires range, the ability to strike targets deep inside enemy territory and return safely to base. The official combat radius is classified for the F-41, but defense analysts estimate it exceeds 1,200 nautical miles. That's significantly longer than the F-22's approximately 600-mile combat radius. This extended range comes from multiple innovations working together. The F-41's variable cycle engines can adjust their configuration in flight, optimizing for either maximum thrust or maximum fuel efficiency. During the cruise portion of a mission, the engines operate in high-efficiency mode, sipping fuel while maintaining supersonic speeds. The airframe itself serves as a fuel tank. Advanced manufacturing techniques allowed engineers to integrate fuel storage throughout the aircraft's structure, maximizing capacity without adding external tanks that would compromise stealth and speed. For Pacific operations, these range numbers are absolutely critical. China has built extensive anti-access networks across the South China Sea. Radar installations, surface-to-air missile sites, and fighter bases create overlapping defensive zones designed to keep American aircraft far from Chinese territory. The F-41 can operate from bases in Guam or Japan and still reach targets throughout the Chinese coastal region. It can establish air superiority over the Taiwan Strait, support naval operations in disputed waters, and strike strategic targets deep inside contested territory, all without requiring vulnerable tanker aircraft. This capability transforms strategic calculations for potential adversaries. They can't assume that American air power will be kept at arm's length. The F-41 can go anywhere, anytime. The sensor revolution modern air combat isn't just about flying faster or higher than the enemy. It's about detecting threats first and engaging them before they even know. You're there. The F-41's sensor suite represents as big a leap forward as its speed and stealth characteristics. The primary radar system can track hundreds of targets simultaneously across distances exceeding 200 miles. It can identify aircraft types, estimate their weapons loads, and predict their likely tactics based on flight patterns. But the F-41 doesn't rely solely on radar. It integrates multiple sensor types into a fused picture that gives the pilot unprecedented situational awareness. Infrared sensors detect heat signatures from aircraft, missiles, and even ground vehicles. Electronic warfare systems identify and locate enemy radar installations and communication networks. All of this sensor data flows through artificial intelligence systems that analyze, prioritize, and present information to the pilot. The AI can predict enemy movements, suggest optimal attack profiles, and even warn of threats the pilot might not have noticed. This sensor fusion capability means an F-41 pilot operates with a level of battlefield awareness that previous generations of fighter pilots couldn't imagine. They know where every threat is, what capabilities those threats possess, and exactly how to neutralize them most effectively. Loyal Wingman integration. Perhaps the most revolutionary aspect of the F-41 is how it changes the nature of air combat through drone integration. The F-41 serves as a quarterback for what the Air Force calls collaborative combat aircraft, intelligent drones that extend the fighter's reach and multiply its effectiveness. These aren't simple remote-controlled aircraft. These drones use artificial intelligence to make independent tactical decisions while following the F-41's strategic direction. A single F-41 pilot can coordinate multiple drone wingmen, each carrying different weapon loads optimized for specific mission roles. Imagine this scenario. An F-41 approaches enemy airspace with 4 Loyal Wingman drones. 2 drones carry long-range air-to-air missiles. One specializes in electronic warfare and jamming. The 4th carries ground attack munitions. The F-41's advanced sensors detect enemy fighters at extreme range. The pilot assigns targets to the missile-carrying drones while directing the electronic warfare drone to jam enemy communications. This coordination happens in milliseconds. Enemy pilots face not one aircraft but an entire formation operating with superhuman precision. Traditional fighter tactics become obsolete when your opponent can be simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. The Air Force plans to field approximately 220 F-41s alongside over 1,000 collaborative combat aircraft. That means America will have the equivalent of more than 1,200 advanced fighters, all networked together and working as a single coordinated force. Strategic implications. The F-41's capabilities send clear messages to both allies and potential adversaries. For American allies, it demonstrates continued commitment to maintaining the military capabilities needed to preserve security and stability. For potential adversaries, the F-41 represents a sobering reality. China has invested heavily in air defense systems specifically designed to counter American air power. Their latest surface-to-air missiles, advanced radar networks, and growing fleet of modern fighters were all developed to defeat F-22s and F-35s. The F-41 makes much of that investment obsolete. Chinese air defenses, optimized to track aircraft flying at Mach 2, will struggle against targets moving at Mach 2.8. Radar systems designed to detect 5th-generation stealth will barely register the F-41's near-zero observable signature. Russia faces similar challenges. Their S-400 and S-500 air defense systems weren't designed to handle targets with the F-41's combination of speed, stealth, and electronic warfare capabilities. Their own 6th-generation fighter programs remain years away from producing flying prototypes. This technological advantage isn't just about winning potential future conflicts, it's about preventing those conflicts from happening in the first place. When potential adversaries understand that any aggressive action would face American air power they cannot effectively counter, it fundamentally changes their strategic calculations. If you're a military veteran, active service member, or military enthusiast, we'd love to have you join our community of like-minded individuals who value military excellence. Production and deployment. The first production F-41 is currently in final assembly at Lockheed Martin's Palmdale facility. First flight is scheduled for mid-2027, with initial operational capability expected by 2029. That's a remarkably aggressive timeline for such an advanced aircraft. The Air Force plans to acquire 220 F-41s over the next 15 years, replacing the aging F-22 fleet and providing a significant increase in air superiority capability. At an estimated unit cost of $180 million per aircraft, the F-41 costs less than many expected for a 6th-generation fighter. Lockheed Martin invested over $3 billion in new production facilities before the first production aircraft began assembly. The manufacturing facility uses robotic systems for precision assembly, augmented reality to guide technicians, and advanced 3D printing to create components that traditional manufacturing methods couldn't achieve. Digital twin technology plays a crucial role throughout production. Every F-41 exists first as a complete digital model where engineers can test systems and identify potential issues before any physical work begins. This dramatically reduces the trial and error that plagued previous aircraft programs. The human element. For all its technological sophistication, the F-41 ultimately depends on the skill and judgment of the pilots who fly it. The Air Force has already begun selecting and training the first cadre of F-41 pilots, drawing from the most experienced F-22 and F-15 aviators. These pilots describe the F-41 as unlike anything they've flown before. The sheer performance, the speed at which the aircraft accelerates and maneuvers, the amount of information the sensors provide, all of it requires adapting to a new way of thinking about air combat. Training programs emphasize not just flying the aircraft, but commanding the entire formation of manned fighter and unmanned wingmen. Pilots practice coordinating complex attacks where they direct Loyal Wingman drones while simultaneously managing their own aircraft's sensors, weapons, and defensive systems. These pilots carry on a tradition of American air superiority that stretches back decades, from the P-51 Mustangs over Europe to the F-86 Sabres in Korea, from the F-4 Phantoms in Vietnam to the F-15 Eagles that have never lost in air-to-air combat. American fighter pilots have consistently dominated the skies. The F-41 ensures that tradition continues for another generation. Conclusion: the F-41 didn't just break speed records for fighter aircraft. It broke the assumption that America's technological edge in military aviation was narrowing. It proved that when properly funded and managed, American aerospace engineering can still produce capabilities that leave competitors stunned. Those secret test flights over the past several years validated technologies that seemed impossible. They proved that you can build a fighter that's simultaneously faster, stealthier, and more capable than anything that came before. The F-41 now enters production, moving from experimental demonstrators to operational aircraft that will patrol the skies and defend American interests for decades to come. By 2029, Air Force pilots will fly combat missions in aircraft that represent the absolute pinnacle of fighter technology. That's not just good news for military aviation enthusiasts. That's good news for everyone who values freedom, security, and the stability that American military strength provides. The F-41 ensures that America maintains air superiority, the foundation upon which all other military operations depend. If you found this deep dive valuable, hit that like button and subscribe for more content on the military technology keeping our nation safe. Thanks for watching, and remember that American innovation continues to lead the world.